Another day, another chance, another way, another dance. Today I'll be discussing to you all about an elaboration on how chapter 7 pretty much gonna be elaborating on what we had before, which was GitHub user, except we're gonna be adding routes. So instead of having like one code file that has all the information that we have, we're gonna have an extension of that. We're actually gonna have two code files along with the router.js file that Ernest is pretty much gonna elaborate on. So that's what we're gonna be making use of. So I'm gonna introduce to you all my driver, the person that's gonna be driving our lesson. It's Ernest. Nice to have you as our driver. Yeah, He's gonna be elaborating on the code. Pretty much. Speaking about the ins and outs of adding routes to our GitHub user. So without a further ado, let's commence with this.
Hey, yeah. What I'll do here is just we've already gone through a lot of codes from our previous chapter,
Yeah,
so I'll just jump straight into our our GitHub users.js.
no problem.
Um, okay, our GitHub users.js will import our components,
Yeah,
import a button,
yeah,
and then we have a class of GitHub users,
no
which we
problem.
extend.
Yeah,
And then we have a construction of props, super
yeah,
props, and then handle click, and then this handle click dot blend this. Um, Basically, this is we're giving it this a function of when on click, what should happen. So handle click. So when we click, we just say the props history, then we push it. We push it to our GitHub root. We push it to our GitHub root.
yeah,
Then we render and return a div of we will have users will log in, and then also we have a paragraph a h1 element and h2 element where users log in, and if this props matches our parameter, we'll log in, and then we also have a user ID, the same thing, and then we have a button of a variant primary on click, handle this,
yeah,
handle click of this, handle click which we've handled earlier on, and
yeah.
then we go to GitHub users
GitHub, okay, no problem.
and GitHub users. So this is just one of the routes we're gonna have uh, in our. Is this gonna be a route or the GitHub.js? But anyway, we'll see. Let's touch on our app.js where the main routing is going on. So we are importing. Uh, for me, in my case, I use the nav bar. I use nav because in the book they used switch. So I imported the nav bar through our bootstrap, through our React bootstrap, and then I imported our GitHub users. And then we have our this time we're using a class for our app, which we extend the components, and then we render a header. We render a header. Um, Let me see if we created a header component. Okay, we render a header, which will I think this is just a it's a class. We import in a class. I think this is in a bootstrap. In React. So here, what am I saying? Here's the header. We import it first, and then we go ahead and make a class for the header. So in our header, what do we have here? We have a browser router, and then we have a root. We have home, which is just the home is our main or our initial page, and then we also have a root that will take us to GitHub, which will see the name of GitHub, and then we added just a new root. We can name it anything. This is like an example to show that okay, this is how we are adding our roots. We just add part name and then part text. We'll see that in the front end, and then coming to our roots, this is where we actually define our path. So in the path of in our first path, you can see we have our GitHub, the user, then login, and it has an ID, and then we have a component which goes and use our get users, which we declared, in the beginning. And then now we also have another path that goes and GitHub, and then goes and gets elements from our GitHub. Basically, just run the functionalities or importing our GitHub.js, which we created initially. Now we have a path of our home, which is just the initial page which we will have, and then we also have a path of if we cannot find like a path or a route that was not declared in our application, we will just get a result of not found. And yeah, that's what our browser router is handling. And then we go on to for our class of home, nothing much. It will just have a div, and then we have home in it, and then class of not found. This component will just have a div of not found, and yeah, basically that is that. We have different paths, and if I can just that's the code part of
Yeah.
our application. You can see we added path, we which we can if we use this route, we would get our GitHub users. If we use this route, we will get the functionality of GitHub. If we use if we use the main route, we just end up at home. And if we use an unidentified route, we will have not found. So I think that's that. Let me display it in the front end. All this that I was just
Talking about.
describing right now, you can see.
Can you share your screen? Oh.
Uh,
You need to share the screen in order for us to see it.
oh, I thought I was sharing my screen. To be honest,
It's fine.
I thought.
It's fine, man. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, here's the code I was talking about here. With the roots and the path.
Yeah.
And let me just make this wide so you can see. So you can see we have our home, we have our GitHub, and then we have that path text, which I was describing.
Yeah.
Which I was describing here. I mean, which is our home, our GitHub, and then path text. And then you see each root. Each root has its own. Just like here, if I say slash GitHub, I'm going to get those. Remember the functionalities, or I'm displaying the page of GitHub.js, and then here we'll just have not found because there's no root or there's no pub name. Pub name has no functionalities, and it wasn't given a component, so it's just gonna be empty. So if I use this one of if I use this one of GitHub users login by ID, paste. It brings me back to the home page. So what is this functionality? It's supposed to be GitHub users. Go to users. But to be honest, here in the app, in our code, we didn't give it a. It's supposed to be an app. It's supposed to go and get the components for GitHub users. GitHub users. But at least it's not giving me a. It's not giving me a what you call it not found. So I'm guessing. Okay, now we're getting not found. Okay, yeah, that page has nothing in it. Oh, it's not mentioned the parameters of the login of our GitHub users login. So yeah, basically that's how we add. That's how we root in our React module. We we add our root in our app.js. In our we have a navbar which we saw, and then we go on and identify our root, give it a path, give it the directory where it's supposed to go and get the page, and then it will render the page for us. Kabilo, is there anything you want to add?
Nothing less, nothing more. You pretty much explained it clearly that you really deduced everything that need to be deduced in regards to like what we were just touching upon. So there's nothing else that needs to be elaborated on except, thank you very much for driving this lesson. Uh, Take care, Lord bless, and yeah, I'll see you. Cause yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's nothing more, man. Thank you very much, bro. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you,
You're
man.
welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome, man.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. I'll see you. I'll see you later on.
Okay.
Thanks.
Um,
Thanks. So as Ernest, pretty much spoke about, we pretty much have routes. So you got with route. So what you're doing is we importing, right? Use parameters, use navigate, use location from React to router DOM, exporting functions with router prop. Then you got our let variables. Then you're gonna return the component props, and then yeah, so on and so forth. Then GitHub user importing React button Axios app.css through routers or class with its constructor props, super props, this dot state repos, this loading error, this handle click, this handle click dot bind, and then this fetch user repos. Then fetch user repos const log in this dot props dot router dot params. So we got parameter. It's pretty much what Ernest spoke about. Then our Axios pretty much our gets, our imports, our our URL for GitHub for our users. So it pretty much encodes our login. So you got a decoder, then encode, then encoder, and then if you return error, so our get, our then, it's pretty much a promise for the completion of which the callbacks execute. So our callback is pretty much our get response, a response that we get from our get. So that's what our callback is gonna be. And then our catch is pretty much a promise for the completion of the callback. Or it's pretty much we got two conditions. It's pretty much like a boolean of true or false. Replacement for our booleans, between true and false. The callback to execute with the promise is rejected. So in this case, our catch is pretty much a callback in which, our execution of the promise has been rejected. So error, then const.error, then this that set state is loading false error could not fetch repositories. Then handle click this dot props dot router that navigate GitHub render const login ID. Right, so const repos is loading error this dot state return div h1 class name h2 class name ID. So GitHub user ID, then button variant equals secondary unclick this handle click class name and before, what I mean, back to users button. So then is loading ampersand loading repositories, then error ampersand class name text danger error. So it's loading ampersand. So if we don't get an error, then but we also get an ampersand length of string equal operator 0, then ampersand no repositories found. So this pretty much is if it's not loading and if we don't have an error and our length string equal operator 0, that means it has to equal to 0. Then we're gonna have no repositories found. So that's pretty much what we got. Then div class name. This is pretty much our class, our repo grid. This is pretty much our class for our repo. So we've got a repo name, imported. So the parameters for the imported, so parameters is conditionals that we have, and then a repo description, no description provided. So repo.html underscore URL target blank, real, no opener, then no referrer, then view on GitHub. So that's pretty much what we have. The export default with the router, GitHub user. So that's pretty much what we have. So we're exporting our default with router, which is GitHub user. So we'll be able to import it elsewhere. So that's what happens when we import it, and then we're gonna pretty much import. So that's pretty much what we're gonna be doing. Then same thing here. So GitHub is has our what export the function GitHub. Then we got an empty function here. So JSX element, then const data set use state search term set search term is loading error set error so on and so forth, and then const handle submit. Then asynchronous, that means one function is working whilst the other one's being loaded. So we got an if statement of if we don't have a search term and we trim the return and remove the leading and trailing white space and line terminated characters from string, then set is loading true, then set error no. So this pretty much removes all the spacings and everything that's included. Then we got try our encoded term, encoded your I components. Search term const res equals await access at get HTTPS API. So this pretty much imports our URL with an encoded term. Then set data catch error, then set error. Error fetching GitHub users, please try again. Then finally set is loading false. Then we're gonna return our div elements, so form class name, so on and so forth. What we had in our previous page. Then yeah, then our root routers, pretty much our routes, parameters, return components, props, router, params, navigate location, so on and so forth. Use params and navigate use location from React router DOM, so on and so forth. So that's pretty much what we have. And then yeah, I mean nothing less, nothing more. Then we gotta re-render our app, import it, set our variables, and then we render our app. So that's pretty much what we're dealing with here. And then React Bootstrap, so GitHub Explorer, so we got home, we got welcome to the GitHub Explorer app, and then you got a GitHub, then enter GitHub username. So let's say, for example, we had Abendlini with a space or view repos or oh okay. Then you got view repos. As if we did Ernest Al Alchem, no users found. Abendlini. Then, as you can see here, via the link that we actually touched up upon, we're able to view, our GitHub users. So that's what you're able to see. So view GitHub. Yeah, so button variant button. Go to my network. As you can see for my network, I'm in my GitHub now. So as you can see, these are different folders that we're making use of on our GitHub. So you got, the amount of time it takes to pretty much decode our data, encode and decode our data, which pretty much transforms our data into information. So back to users. Back to users and developer learning. No description provided. Create, read, update, delete. So let's see, like, if you're on GitHub, right? Let's see that. As you can see at that link that we made use of, we're able to use or get to our this link here. We pretty much it encodes our login, and with our login, we're pretty much able to get to our API github.com for our users. So as you can see here, this is my profile, and then this is my repository called developer learning. So that's pretty much what we're dealing with here. And let, let's see this thing here. So so s- let's add a button elements to this. I don't like the way that it actually looks on my side. So let's add a button elements to this. What happened? I didn't close this thing. I didn't close this thing properly. So that's what happened. Well, hence the problem. Then, as you can see, update source GitHub user. Come on. So as you can see here, I turned this into a button. So it's a button. So a view on GitHub. So yeah. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much what we're dealing with here. Then our HTML. Just mean the JS image, so on and so forth. Everything that needs to be mentioned, yada yada yada. Yeah, I mean that's what, bro. What? No. So everything I was speaking about or touching up on. So I'll show you here. So GitHub user JSX. So import our stuff, our classes, components, fetch users, repos. Then we got our Axios, our links could not fetch repository. Then our handle click, then our return. GitHub .jsx. So we got our imports, so on and so forth. Import export function, the location return, so on and so forth. And then yeah, in this part here, home, welcome to the GitHub Explorer app, and then go over to my GitHub, view on repository. Yeah, and then my ID 205422843. So that's pretty much redeemed here. Thank you very much, everybody, for my lesson. Take care, bless, and I'll see you next time for my chapter 9. Yeah, my chapter 9. Thanks. Thank you.